Hey there, in this tutorial we're going to look at how to access your fonts. I already have created a document here and I already have placed some text on this document, and I'm just going to be showing you how to work with that text to change it to any font that you might want to use. Okay, so first of all, in order for me to change this text here to a different font, I'm going to need to highlight it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and also I'm going to come up here and I'm going to change the size. I got a number 3 button over here that seems to want to stick. I'm going to change the size of this text just to make it a little bit bigger so we can see it. So you can kind of see the font change. Okay, so I'm going to highlight this text, and your fonts are going to be in 2 different places. As with many things with InDesign, there's a few different ways that you can get to things. One thing you can do is come up to the menu and go to Type and then Font. That's one of the first things that appears here, and you'll see all your fonts appearing right here. On the left hand side is going to be the name of that font, and on the right hand side is going to be just a little example of what that font looks like. So that's good to use if you're in need of a certain type of font. Another thing that you can do is up here you have this little formatting bar area, and you're going to see your font right up here. So the font that we have selected right now is called Minion Pro. And we can change that font really easily by clicking this arrow right here. And you'll see here we get pretty much the same thing that we saw earlier. One really cool thing that I like about this drop-down menu is when I put my cursor over a font like this, and then I use my up and down arrows, it will actually change the text to the different fonts, and I can see them in a real quick version to see exactly what those fonts are going to look like. And yeah, there are some weird ones in there for sure. Let me just pick one out here that looks halfway normal. Let's see, Magneto, no. Oh wow, that's a really strange one. There, that works for us. Okay, so there I've changed my font, and now I have a new font in there. So that's how you access your fonts. Do be aware, right here in this font menu, you're going to see a line right here. And this is just a little tip to help you speed things up. Everything above this line, these are the fonts that you have been using recently. So the computer, InDesign, the program saves those fonts so that you can get to them easily without having to scroll down. So if you look here, you know, Agency FB is the first one, so it's easy for me to get to that one. But if I'm using, say, a font, there's hundreds of them here, way down here in the M's, like Myriad Pro, it takes a little longer to get to that one. So it's nice to have this up here, especially since we're going to be using some of the same fonts over and over again when we're using InDesign to create our pages. So those are going to be pretty much the only fonts you're going to be using, with a few small exceptions. So by having those fonts saved up here, it makes life really easy. And you'll see some of the fonts that we used last year are saved up here right now. AYT FET, AYT Bettany, those are fonts, and AYT Banker Square are all fonts that we used last year. So I was able, as I was working on different pages, to get to those really, really quickly because of that. I also want to show you right here, this is your regular font, but this is your font styles, and you can click here to get italic or bold italic. Again, you also can go up to type here, and you also can get to the same thing over here by clicking Myriad Pro. You get regular, italic, bold, italic. This to me is just a much faster way of getting to that. Okay, now I want to show you these two boxes right here and what they do. This is your font size, and this is something called leading. And it's spelled like leading, and I want to show you just what leading is, because I'm pretty sure you know what font size is. Basically, font size, as you can imagine, is this right here, where I can change the size of my font and make it larger. I can use the arrows to do that, or there's a drop-down menu that allows me to change up to 72 point. If I want to go larger than 72, probably the easiest way for me to do that is just to type the numbers in this box here and leave the PT in there, because that is your point size. But you can see here, as I increase this font, these letters are kind of running over each other. And the reason they're doing that is because of the leading. Anytime you increase the size of your font, there's a good chance that you're going to need to increase the size of your leading, because what you're going to be trying to avoid is this overlapping of words. So you see here, if I increase the size of my leading, it's going to increase the distance between lines. And that's really important for you to know in case you ever run into a situation where you need to use that. And often you will. In a lot of the cases in InDesign, we're going to be using fonts that are specific, that you'll have to use for, say, writing captions or writing headlines. And there'll also be some specifics on the font size. And we will write that size in two parts. It will be 10/12, or in this case 36/42, to indicate both the font size and the leading. And we'll get into that more later on, but this is where you access that information. There are a few other interesting tools up here. This is an all caps tool, so say you wrote something in lowercase like you see here, I can hit that. It's going to put it in all caps. This is a small caps version. This is a superscript, which basically puts it up to the top of the line that it's on, or subscript, which puts it on below the line that it's on. Then you have your underline, and you have your strike through, where it just kind of puts a line through it. Those are not things that we use very often, but there's something that you could use. Here's a couple other things that you'll be using. You got kerning and tracking. Kerning and tracking are two terms that you need to know, and I'm going to click right here and you can see what this does. This essentially spaces out letters. Now, if you adjust your kerning, you're actually adjusting the space between words. And it's actually not adjusting anything right now. It's probably because I'm doing something wrong. So kerning adjusts the space between words, and tracking adjusts the space between letters. And then you have, of course, space between lines over here, leading. So kerning, tracking, and leading are three terms that you'll need to know. This here is your vertical scale. Essentially, you can make your letters taller here if you want to by clicking here. I don't know why you would need taller letters than they are, but it just kind of like distorts the font that you have. You also can use baseline shift here, and this will push all the letters up or all the letters down a little bit. Sometimes that's a nice tool to use if you have some things bumping into each other or something and you just need to kind of space them out a little bit. It's an option. And then you have here your horizontal scale. You can see this little line under the T. And that basically is going to make your letters wider. So that's another option that you have. And then you have your skew or false italic. And what that does, I don't think your computer says false italic, but they have that on my InDesign version. Basically makes your letters kind of lean over. And so those are some different things that you may use in certain situations. There's a lot of situations where you want to be real careful about this and not kind of overdo it, because it's really easy to go that route and kind of do a little bit too much. You have to remember that the key with text is always to make it easy to read. That is the goal with text. It's there to be read, so you want to make it as easy as possible for people to read it. Otherwise, they will skip past it. All right, that will end this tutorial. I hope you learned a lot about how to access your fonts and how to use some of these other formatting tools here. Our next tutorial is going to get into the use of this and this, which these things have multiple purposes, but they can be used to modify or manipulate both text and text frames. Thanks a lot for listening.